Okay, so I was asked to discuss antipsychotics. This is a tough topic for me, but let me give it my all here, right? Before we discuss the medications, I want to establish like a foundation. When someone has schizophrenia, there's an abnormal secretion of dopamine. And dopamine is responsible for the reward centers of your brain, for your mood, for movement, for an abundance of functions. And when you have schizophrenia, there's an abnormal secretion. You have to understand that there's four pathways in the brain that release dopamine. The first one's known as your mesolimbic pathway. And in schizophrenia, you have too much dopamine, and that causes your positive symptoms. I don't mean positive as in good. I mean positive as in an increase of mood or movement. So I'm talking about people that have hallucinations, delusions, people that are crying, people that are doing too much, right? Those are your positive symptoms of schizophrenia, and your mesolimbic system, when there's too much of it, too much dopamine, that's what provides you those signs and symptoms. Your second pathway is known as your mesocortical pathway. And in schizophrenia, you have a lack of dopamine, and that contributes to your negative symptoms. I don't mean negative as in necessarily bad, but I mean negative as in anhedonia, a lack of motivation. You're sad, you're depressed, you can't get out of bed, you have no motivation, no energy. Those are negative symptoms. The third pathway is known as your tubarion fundibular pathway, and that's responsible for releasing prolactin or controlling the release of prolactin. The fourth and last pathway that I'll be discussing that regulates dopamine is known as your nigrostriatal pathway, and that one's responsible for movement. So those four areas are affected during when someone has schizophrenia. There's an abnormal amount of secretion, and the medications, what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to regulate them. The problem is when you have schizophrenia, you have these D1 through D5 receptors that are found in those different pathways. And when you give the medications, they mostly affect the D2 receptors, which are found in your mesolimbic system. And that's because that's where the main side effects come from of when, not side effects, signs and symptoms when someone has schizophrenia. So it's supposed to target those receptors. The problem is if the mesolimbic